Hey everybody, Ryan here at etrailer. Today we're going to be checking out the buyer's products backup alarm. So whenever I see these, first thing that comes to my head is how loud is it going to be? You know, what's it going to sound like? So with that said, why don't we hop in the truck and check it out. So up here in the truck, let's go ahead, key it on, put it in reverse. So we'll wait till our dash quits making some noise here. And in reverse, this thing is no joke. You know, this thing is a screamer. Anyone behind the truck or in the vicinity of the truck is definitely going to be able to hear it. So after hearing it, you know, pretty loud. It's rated at 102 decibels, which is definitely up there. And to be honest with you, I've heard other backup alarms that have similar ratings, and for whatever reason, this one just seems like it's louder. I don't know if it's a tone or just how deep it is, maybe, but it definitely seems like it has an advantage over some of the other ones. But you know, with that said, these backup alarms are great. You know, they're nice and compact, and you can put them on pretty much anything. You know, whether it be a truck like this, maybe a service truck or a work truck, or even equipment. You know, maybe a forklift, a tractor, whatever you're really trying to use it for, you can. It's small enough and compact enough, you can pretty much bolt these anywhere. And you know, it just helps keep everyone a little bit safer. You know, a lot of times on the vehicles that put this on, you know, there's a lot of noise going on, a lot of people kind of doing their own thing, and so, you know, blasting off some sound like this is going to let people know, hey, get out of the way. You know, so not only will it help keep them safer, you know, no accidents happening, but it'll also help, you know, take the liability off of you as well. So just to make sure that you can figure out if this is going to work with your application or not, which it should. It's really small, but be on the safe side. I'll give you some measurements. So it's going to be 3 7/8 of an inch long, 2 3/4 of an inch tall, and as far as the thickness or the width, it's going to be 1 9/16 of an inch. So this is going to work with 12 volt systems, 12 volt DC systems, so kind of your standard for all the automotive type vehicles. But it also has the ability to work with 24 volt systems. So maybe, you know, if you got some other type of piece of machinery or equipment that has a 24 volt system, you know, this is still going to operate with that. And, you know, as far as the toughness and things like that go, I feel like that's a pretty important aspect of one of these, because, you know, chances are pretty good the vehicle you're putting it on is going to see a lot of work. You want this thing to last, you know, and I'm actually a big fan of the buyer's products. I've used several of their electrical things for my own personal projects and things like that, and I've had really good luck with them. I've yet to use one of these for myself, but I don't really see this being any different, you know, as far as the quality goes. Things are pretty tough, you know, it's hard. I feel like if you know, you'd really have to do a lot of work to beat this thing up and break it. And it's built to where it can withstand extreme temperatures, whether it be really cold winters or blazing hot summers. You know, this thing's still going to function and get the job done. So at the end of the day, a nice piece, and it's going to get the job done. Now, as far as the installation goes, really not bad at all. Essentially, you just bolt it up, hook up one wire, and you're good to go. So it really shouldn't give you any issues. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and do that together now. The first thing that we need to do is identify our wiring that controls our reverse light circuit. In our case, we're going to be right here in this corner. Now keep in mind, you know, every setup is going to be a little bit different, but at least where the wires are located and things like that. But generally speaking, it's safe to assume you can find them close to the rear of your vehicle. Just like our situation today, that wiring is going to be located right here in this corner. In our case, we have a really nice setup. It's actually all labeled, telling us what wire does what. And this blue wire, labeled backup, so this is going to be our reverse light circuit. And I, you know, went ahead and tested it still just to make sure. The way you would test it is really easy. You get a test light, and what you do is you have a friend sit up in the vehicle, put it in reverse, you know, make sure you keep safety in mind, because if you're going to be underneath the vehicle, you don't want to get ran over. But put it in reverse, and if that wire powers on when it's in reverse, and the wire loses power once you take it out of reverse, that's how you can identify that circuit. So it's pretty straightforward. But once you have that done, what we're gonna do, we're gonna need to tap into this. So there's a couple ways we can do this. The way that I'm gonna do is use a butt connector like this. I'm simply just going to cut it in half, and I'm gonna strip back the ends of the insulation. Give them a good twist here. Keep everything nice and tight. And what I'm going to do is take a butt connector like this and just an additional piece of wire. So I grabbed, you know, maybe 3 foot. You can grab wiring here at etrailer, but on one of the sides, I'm going to take our extra piece of wire and one end of the factory wires and just twist these together. Now we can put on our butt connector, so it's going to slide over the end. We'll crimp this down. And then to complete the circuit, we're going to plug this into the other end. So this is a pretty big butt connector, somewhat small wire. I'm just going to fold that over. It'll give it a better bite. Slide that in, rip it down, and since these are heat shrink butt connectors that help keep the wiring protected from corrosion and things like that, I'll come back in with my heat source and seal up the ends. So now what I've done, I've taken our wire here that we spliced in and simply just attached a small ring terminal. It did this the same way that we did our butt connector. And now we can actually mount the alarm up. All right, and so you want this to be, you know, away from moving things and hot things, stuff like that. That way, you know, it stays relatively protected. And if you can, you know, get it here towards the back, and that way the noise will be projected towards the rear of the vehicle, help people hear it better. So we have a couple different mounting options. You know, we have these holes here, these ones up top. I'm gonna mount ours like this. And so what I've done, pretty thick steel there, kind of held it up, marked it, and pre-drilled some holes. And what I'm gonna use is just self-tapping screws with a flat washer on there to get this thing mounted up. So when you're doing this, I want to pay attention too, you know, if you got wires running through like that, make sure you kind of hold them out of the way. You know, that way we don't damage them. So go ahead and get this lined up here and secured down. There's going to be 2 terminals. This one right here, this one on the bottom, that's going to be our reverse light power signal. We'll go to that. And this one's a ground. Now what's kind of cool is this is a self-grounding type design, so that metal ground piece comes all the way up. And so if you're securing this to, you know, the chassis of your vehicle, your ground's going to be covered there. If you have to screw this into wood or plastic or something like that, you may need to simply take a piece of wire and a ring terminal, put it on the ground side, and, you know, connect it to your chassis, whether that be tying it into an existing ground wire or simply just routing your wire over to where you have a piece of metal to tie into. But since we went right into the frame, we're in good shape at the ground, so we just have to worry about this wire here. So we will take this nut off, slide it over, slide that star washer back on it, get the nut started. Get that snug, and then just give it a turn with the wrench to make sure it's not going to come loose. Now the only thing left to do is to test the alarm out, make sure it works. So hopped up here in the front of the truck, and pretty big box truck, so there's quite a bit of space between where I'm sitting and the alarm, and so we'll see how it does. We'll go ahead and put it in reverse, and oh yeah, no question, this is a loud one. If you want to wake up the neighbors, definitely a good choice to go with. But with that said, you know, no problem hearing it. I can imagine how it sounds in the back. and anyone that's around the vicinity should definitely be able to hear that noise. And that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the buyer's products backup alarm.